Today we're going to go over the AFC West. Now, a lot of things happened as far as Kansas City, Oakland are concerned. Denver and Los Angeles, I just feel a little bit, I don't know how to put it, but not pessimistic in a way. I'm optimistic, but I'm kind of like leaning back a bit. I don't feel like Los Angeles and Denver really have that big of a future. But I'm Andres, and this is my football assessment. So we're going to start off right away with the MVP's team. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best QBs in the NFL, if not the best QB in the NFL. But there was one thing that I saw this offseason that Kansas City did. They made a lot of roster moves. Now, I'm not talking about Kareem Hunt. That was pretty obvious. They kind of had to release him. But I'm talking about, like, they made a lot of changes. They added a lot of people. There were so many aggressive roster moves. Like, they needed players for some reason. I wrote down all the additions, the notable and the key additions for their team. I'm looking at 10 added players and 3 who left in trades or free agency. Defense got a lot of additions, but will they help change the defensive slump that the Chiefs were in last year? And I mean slump in the way that the offense was basically carrying the Chiefs to the conference championship. The defense didn't show up that much. And it was pretty much proven in the conference championship game against the Patriots. They had so many chances of interceptions and fumbles, but they couldn't hop on it. And I know people in the comment section everywhere will tell you, oh, the refs screwed up the game, because that's what happened in both conference championship games. But I fully blame the defense. It was absolutely horrible. They were ranked 30th, if I'm not mistaken, in the league in defense last year. But the additions are pretty notable. They got Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, which in a huge trade, by the way, Emmanuel Ogbah, Bashaud Breeland, Alex Okafor, Carlos Hyde, that's an interesting one, Mccall Hardman from the draft, and Juan Thornhill from the draft. And it was really weird because they signed and then released Sammy Coates, which was pretty odd for me. But the notable subtractions, or, deductions from their team, they traded away Dee Ford for, I believe, a 5th rounder, and Eric Murray for pretty much the same thing. And they let Justin Houston go to the Colts, which I think the Colts nailed that one in the coffin. That was amazing. But the defense, I feel like, will have a very significant seismic shift next season. I feel like they'll be better. Because on the defense last year, there really wasn't any notable players other than one defensive end and 2 linebackers. That's pretty much it. The secondary was not very noticeable except for Eric Berry, which actually, hang on, Eric Berry is still in free agency. He has not been signed by a team, which actually shocks me. He's a great player. But yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't really have any notable players other than those 4 or 5 players that they had, which was awful. Now, Chiefs offense, is it still explosive? I think 100% it will be the same thing last year. I know Kareem Hunt isn't on the team anymore. He's on the Browns. But we saw Damian Williams step up majorly for the Chiefs last season, and I think that was really, really cool. The fact that they added Carlos Hyde kind of makes it a bit iffy for the running back core, because I don't fully believe in Carlos Hyde ever since he left the 49ers. I feel like it's just a bit off with him. But Damian Williams, I fully believe in. I feel like he'll be a monster with the Chiefs. I feel like that's going to be a great, great halfback in the future. Now, the wide receivers, they added Mccall Hardman, who was apparently one of the fastest receivers in this draft and is pretty explosive. He's basically Tyreek Hill 2.0. Imagine covering 2 Tyreek Hills. That's pretty insane. But actually, going to the Tyreek Hill situation, it is what it is. But make no mistake, Tyreek Hill is a great player, okay? And from what I saw, from what I've seen online, he was actually set up by his wife or his girlfriend. And that's just horrible if that's the case. I don't know fully, so don't blame me for not knowing that. I'm just telling you what I saw and what I heard. And the last thing I want to put out there for the Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes en route for a possible Super Bowl season. Are the Chiefs en route to have a Super Bowl season? If they can get past the Browns, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Patriots, all those teams, they will have a shot. Because I believe that the NFC, no matter who makes it, will have a pretty significant matchup in the Chiefs. And now that we're moving on from the Chiefs side of things, let's go to Los Angeles, which is the lesser of the two teams in Los Angeles. We got the Los Angeles Chargers and the Los Angeles Rams. You can guess which one's more significant in Los Angeles. But the Chargers' free agency signings were questionable. And I say questionable because it's a lot. They got Tyrod Taylor as their backup QB now. They got Adrian Phillips, the safety. Brandon McBain, an old defensive tackle that used to play with the Seahawks. Thomas Davis. And then they re-signed Travis Benjamin and Denzel Perman. I don't know about that. I really don't. That's really, really odd to me. They added 2 vets. Or 3 vets, I should say. Brandon McBain is a big vet. But it's I don't understand. I really don't. They could have gotten any other player other than these 4. And it's not significant to me. It really isn't. Thomas Davis, maybe. But their front 7 is already amazing as it is. Their defense was very underrated last season until I saw the Patriots game and I was like, well, everyone was right. But, it's... I don't know what to say for the Chargers. I really don't think that they'll make it back unless something happens. Because this last season was a surprise. Everyone was surprised how good the Los Angeles Chargers were. And it was purely schedule-based, I believe. In all honesty, it was pure schedule-based. Big key players, Travis Benjamin and Denzel Perman, those are big re-signings for them, I feel like. Now, I do say the free agency signings were questionable, but the draft was killer. They did great. They drafted Jerry Tillery, Nasir Adderley, Trey Pipkins, a tackle, Easton Stick, a guard. They're doing great in the draft. They did great in the draft. They didn't do that great in free agency, in my opinion. One notable thing that I saw was Phillip Rivers is on his last year of his contract, and he didn't ask for an extension. The Chargers offered an extension, but Phillip Rivers said, let me play this last year out, and let me see how I feel. I feel like that's huge for both sides. One, Phillip Rivers has 1 year to hopefully gun it to the Super Bowl and win. And 2, the Chargers have 1 more year of Phillip Rivers. And they have 1 more year to try and gun it for the Super Bowl. Same goal in mind. I feel like the Chargers need to do more aggressive changes if they're going to make it. Honestly, wide receiver core, I love it. The one problem I have is Melvin Gordon. The only other halfback they have is Austin Eckler. Excuse me. Their halfback core will be significantly worse if Melvin Gordon doesn't get re-signed. And I see this situation happening now. He wants to get traded or he wants to get a big signing. So does Ezekiel Elliott. So does 2 other players, I believe. They're huge. And they have every right to do that. People expect good players to re-sign with their team. Please re-sign for us. Give them the good money. And the GMs are trying to give them good money, but the players are like, no, we expect more. We did more for our team. And I fully believe that. Honestly, if you did the most for your team, you deserve the most out of your contract. Honestly. Melvin Gordon was a monster. Not only last year, for the past 2 or 3 years, Melvin Gordon has been a monster for the Chargers. Regardless, he's been great for them. And I can't see Melvin Gordon in another jersey. I really cannot. Melvin Gordon belongs as a Charger, and he should stay as a Charger. If they don't offer an extension soon, he's not going to play. It's another Le'Veon Bell situation with the Chargers and with my next episode's topic, the Cowboys in the NFC East. But the Chargers, their future offense, I mean, Tyrod Taylor, is he a good future quarterback? I really don't know. He had glimpses of it with Cleveland. He did pretty well. Will the Chargers make it back? Are they contenders? I personally don't think so. It's a matter of how well they'll play by week 8. Honestly, week 8 mark, if a team's doing, 50 or 55 or 60, honestly, they look like they're en route for the playoffs. If they're doing like 3 and 4, they better pick up pace, because after week 8, that's when things get real drastic. That's when everything hits the fan. So for the Chargers, I don't know, but I could be wrong. The Chargers could make it back. They could even win the division. I don't even know. No one knows. But there's one thing for sure, that there's some fighters in this division, along with Denver and Oakland, which I'm going to get to in a minute. The Chiefs are going to be the biggest obstacle, of course. So the Chargers, I don't know. But their future is at risk right now. They're very, very at risk. On to the Denver Broncos. Now, I personally think this offseason was pretty good. Rebuild in session. New head coach, new players, new QB, similar to the Miami Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. But they do have a bit of cap holds. They have a bit of players that they're overpaying. And I'm not going to talk about Von Miller. Von Miller deserves what he gets. He's a monster. But Jawan James, Chris Harris, don't get me wrong. Those players are pretty decent. Chris Harris is great. But Chris Harris is wanting to leave. And Jawan James, he's not going to be that great tackle for the future. They added Joe Flacco, Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callahan, and Jake Brendel along with those players. It's actually looking pretty good. In all honesty, I like how the defense is shaping up and how the offensive line is shaping up. But there's just the wide receivers, man. What is going on? No wide receivers. Emmanuel Sanders is 30. He's in his prime. He's 30. I don't even know how old he is. You have no other receivers, and you fully expect, oh, yeah, we're going to have a great season. You have a decent wide receiver. No. How do you think Case Keenum did last season? Do you think Drew Locke or Joe Flacco are going to have a better season? I don't think so. The problem is the wide receivers. What are you doing? In the draft, they drafted Noah Fant, which they traded down for, by the way, which was brilliant. They got Dalton Risner in the second round, and then they traded it up to steal Drew Locke from the Miami Dolphins. Now, Drew Locke, I don't know. Big story here is the quarterback situation. And surprisingly enough, no wide receivers. I'm going to slam them all day for that. Joe Flacco in the last season, and I know this is going to be very unfair, but I'm just comparing to stats from college and NFL because it can go way down for Drew Locke. Drew Locke can have way less passing yards, way less touchdowns and completions. I'm just saying. Joe Flacco started the first nine games in 2018. He had 232 completions, 379 attempts out of 379 attempts, which was a 61.2% passing completion rating. He had 2,465 yards, 12 touchdowns for 6 interceptions. That was really good. He was on shape to have a 4,000 passing yard season, another 4,000 passing yard season. Then he got hurt, and they put in Lamar Jackson. But honestly, that was Joe Flacco's season to be great. I don't think this year is his year. And now looking at the college side of things, Drew Locke. He started all 13 games, 275 completions out of 437 attempts, which was a 62.9% completion rating. 3,498 yards and 28 touchdowns for 8 interceptions. Now, Joe Flacco was looking on track to a pretty good season, and Drew Locke had an outstanding junior year and did well for senior year. He kind of declined a bit, but his junior season, Drew Locke, was amazing. The stats I just shared with you about Drew Locke, that was his senior season. His junior season was way better. The quarterback situation, honestly, I'm going to say the same thing I'm going to say for the Giants. You put in Joe Flacco, you let him play for 4 games, I believe, and start Drew Locke if things go south. If Joe Flacco is literally throwing more interceptions than touchdowns for those first 4 games, put in Drew Locke, please. I beg. Same thing goes for Dwayne Haskins. Same thing goes for Daniel Jones. Kyler Murray has an excuse. He's the starting quarterback over there 100%. These quarterbacks do not have an excuse. They need to be backups for now. Or else they're going to get eaten alive in this league. I swear. Denver took hits in the secondary. Did not add any new receivers. Did draft a tight end. That's the last of my notes. If I'm going to be honest, Denver doesn't really have enough to have a good season. They're going to go probably 6-10, 7-9. I could be wrong, as I always say, I'll probably be wrong, which I hope. But Denver, this season, rebuild season, figure yourselves out. Next season, come back with authority. You'll be good. I feel like the Los Angeles Chargers are going to fail. They're going to go down next season, and this will be a perfect opportunity for the Denver Broncos and for the Oakland Raiders, which is my last team in the AFC West and the AFC in total, completing the AFC in this episode. Oakland has the biggest stories of this offseason. I'm telling you, this was awesome. Oakland had an amazing offseason dive. They did all they could with the cap space, with the picks, all that they could, and they didn't waste a whole lot. Look what they got. Via trade, Antonio Brown for a 5th round pick. The stuff that he's going through is pretty bad. Frostbite on his foot and then complaining to the NFL about the old helmet. Like, does it cross your mind that this is kind of stupid? But, I mean, if the guy wants his helmet, he wants his helmet. John Gruden's supposedly, enforcing it. He's helping him out. Whatever. Honestly, Antonio Brown's a great athlete. I hope to see good things out of him next season. And, yeah, we'll be pretty good. LaMarcus Joyner is a good pickup. Trenton Brown, they kind of overpaid him, but good pickup nonetheless. They have Isaiah Crowell, who sadly got injured and is on IR for the rest of the season. They added Luke Wilson, the tight end. They drafted Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Abram, all in the first round. Then they drafted Trayvon Mullen, I believe, in the 2nd or 3rd round, and Hunter Renfrow in the back of the draft. Hunter Renfrow, I think, is going to be a pretty good steal. Hunter Renfrow, I feel like, is going to be a great slot receiver for them, and is going to be really good. Offense is great. Defense improved and still needs a bit more firepower. Now, enough with all the acquiring talk. Let's get into Derek Carr. Now, a lot of people, and including the Raiders themselves, they're saying, like, if Derek Carr doesn't show up this season, he's off. He's off. He's getting traded or he's getting released or whatever. And honestly, that's a great idea. The contract that he has now is pretty big. So if you give him a 1-year tenure and he proves that he's good, keep him. If he doesn't, release him, trade him, I don't care. But here's something that I found out in his last season. This last season. In the 2018-2019 season, he played all 16 games. He started all 16. He had 381 completions out of 553 attempts, which is a 68.9% completion rating. 4,049 yards, which was 253.1 yards per game. 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Now, that last one is the reason why I'm kind of a little bit pessimistic or leaning back on Derek Carr. but the rest are impressive. They show that he's good, that he's doing well. This is his first season above 4,000 yards. His highest career completion percentage was this season. And the touchdown to interception ratio, I guarantee, will improve this season with a better offensive line, better receiver core, better halfback core. I honestly think this offense is going to be very underrated next year. Very underrated. Now, onto the two things that I wanted to look at, halfback core and wide receivers. The halfback core is interesting because they lost Isaiah Crowell, which, he's a good running back. He was good. They have Josh Jacobs and Doug Martin. Doug Martin, kind of old. Didn't get glimpses of him playing, really, last season and the season before that. Josh Jacobs, I personally think this is going to be pretty good. He's the best halfback out of that draft, technically. But honestly, he has time to shine. He has time to get prepared because he has Doug Martin on the team and he has also Isaiah Crowell, which, of course, he's not playing, but he can get mentored. The wide receivers are really, really good. They got AB, Antonio Brown, 84, Tyrell Williams, who's honestly a good wide receiver from the Chargers, and Hunter Renfrow. Those are the new signings. This team looks really good on offense, in my opinion. If anyone says the Raiders have a bad looking offense, I will prove them wrong. This looks great. This looks great for the Raiders. The only thing I'm worried about for the Raiders is the defense. I'm not worried about their future. They have a future first rounder from the Bears, and I feel like the Bears are not going to be that good. Future episode coming out about that too. But the defense is really young and kind of scary. It's really young because almost all of those players are below 30 years old. And not only that, they still have roster spots that they can trade. I remember someone saying they would trade their starting strong safety. I forgot his name right now. I had it in my head. But someone was saying they should trade him for, a good player. And honestly, if they can package a deal to get one more star defensive player, and they do, this defense is pretty much set for the future. Not saying they're going to go 10-6 or 11-5 this season, but this Oakland team is starting to get scary. John Gruden's plan is really working out. Whether it's him at the helm of the GM or it's the GM himself, Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock pretty much saved this team from obscurity and from literally being the laughingstock of the NFL. Now it's the Giants, which I'm going to prove everyone wrong in the next episode. But that's pretty much all I wanted to get to in this episode. It's a bit shorter than usual, and I feel like it's because I really didn't write down a whole lot. It was just purely some of these teams had a lot of interesting signings I wanted to note and some stories. I didn't want to get into the Tyreek Hill situation because that's its own situation. Everyone knows it. I'm not going to talk about it because that's not good. Antonio Brown, everyone's heard it. Everyone knows it. I shouldn't talk about it really. I'm not going to get into bad stories because I don't want my podcast to be revolved around, controversial bad story talk. And I just want my podcast to be more details, facts, and how each team looks. Not, oh, this player is stupid because he made this move. I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that. I don't like putting players in that situation. But when it comes to playing, I will put them in an uncomfortable spot. Because from the stat sheet, from what I see, you're either really bad or really good or somewhere in between the spectrum. But that's pretty much it for today's episode. I'm going to immediately write notes for NFC East. I know it's been a real long time since I posted an episode. I know. You don't have to tell me. I know that I kind of screwed up with my schedule. I've been really, really busy lately, and I'm just trying to get everything out as soon as possible before the regular season starts to the NFL, which I'm very, very, very excited for. I cannot wait. But thank you for stopping by. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, please, to the podcast, and have a nice day.